So today's lesson is I can read, write, and recognize decimal numbers to the thousandths. So we already know that decimals are numbers that use place value and a decimal point. So we use decimals to represent values between whole numbers. Writing fractions is a different way of writing decimals. And decimals are right of the decimal point and represent amounts less than 1. So if we wanted to read this decimal to the thousandths place, here are the steps we would take. We would begin by reading the whole number, everything to the left of the decimal point. So we have 2 tens and 5 ones, which is 25. We then read the decimal point and say the word and. So 25 and. Read the number after the decimal. Right now there's only one digit after the decimal, and it's just 3. So we'll say 3. Identify the place value of the last digit. That 3 is in the tenths place. So we're going to say the lowest value. So this number is read as 25 and 3 tenths. This number has 4 digits. We read the whole number, everything to the left of the decimal point, 25. We read the decimal point as and. We read the number after the decimal. All I see is the number, I see 2 digits, 0 and 3, but I'll read it as 3. And then identify the last digit, the place value, it's hundredths. So we will read this as 25 and 3 hundredths. Okay, once again we read the whole number, 25. We say and when we see a decimal point. We read the number after the decimal. So here I see 033. I'm going to read that as 33. I'm going to identify the place value of the last digit, which is thousandths. I'm going to say the lowest place value. So this should read 25 and 33 thousandths. So now that we've got some practice reading decimals, now we're going to write decimals to the thousandths. So to do this, first we're going to identify the whole number, everything left of the decimal point. Then we're going to write the whole number. So I could see that 14 and 6 tenths. 14 is everything before the and, so that's going to be written into the place value chart as 1 10 and 4 ones. Next, I'm going to identify the decimal. That's everything to the right of the decimal point and after the word and. So after the word and, I see 6 tenths. I identify the lowest place value, which is the tenths place. And I'm going to write my decimal, making sure that my last digit is the lowest place value. So I'm going to write a 6 right in the tenths place. So this represents 14 and 6 tenths. I annex zeros if I need a placeholder. In this case, I don't. 14 and 6 tenths is how I would write this decimal. 14 and 6 hundredths. Identify the whole number, everything left of the decimal point, everything you say before the word and. So I'm going to write that whole number, 14. 1 10, 4 ones. Now I'm going to write everything after the decimal point. So everything after the decimal point is 6 hundredths. So I identify the lowest place value, which is the hundredths place, and I'm going to make sure that my last digit, in this case I only have one digit, which is a 6, is going to go into the hundredths place. In this case, in order for me to make sure that I'm representing 6 hundredths and not 6 tenths, I'm going to annex a 0 and leave that as a placeholder. So when I read this number, I can write it in standard form as 14 decimal point 06 or 14 and 6 tenths. Okay, let's try this one, 14 and 6 thousandths. I identify the whole number, everything before the decimal point, and I'm going to write it in, 14. Now I'm going to identify the decimal, everything after the word and. So 14 and 6 thousandths. So that means I'm going to represent 6 thousandths. I identify the lowest place value, which is the thousandths place. And I'm going to make sure that when I write my decimal in, the last digit is in the lowest place value. So I know there's a 6 in the lowest place value. I annex zeros if I need a placeholder, and in this case I need a placeholder for the tenths and the hundredths place, so I can represent 6 thousandths. So I would write it as a 1/4 decimal point 006 or 14 and 6 thousandths. Let's try one more. 38 and 10 hundredths. Identify the whole number. That's everything before the word and. So I know I have to represent 38. So I'm going to write the whole number in. That's 3 10s and 8 1s. Now I'm going to identify the decimal. That's everything after the word and to the right of the decimal point. So this is 10 hundredths. I identify the lowest place value, which is hundredths. I know that I have the number 10 that I have to put in. So if it's 2 digits, I know that the last digit needs to go in the hundredths place. The last digit is a 0. So I'm going to write in my 0. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm representing 10 hundredths. So I'm going to represent it by putting a 1 in the tenths place. I'm going to annex zeros. In this case, I don't have any zeros to annex because I needed 10 to represent 10 hundredths. So I write 38.10 or 38 and 10 hundredths. Last one, 152 and 83 thousandths. I'm going to represent 152 in the place value chart, but write that whole number in. 100, 5 10s, 2 1s. And everything to the right of the decimal point or after the word and is my decimal. I recognize that it says 83 thousandths. I'm going to identify the lowest place value, which is the thousandths place. And I know that my last digit needs to go into the thousandths place. So for 83, there's 2 digits, and I know that there's an 8 and a 3. So the 3 is going to go into the thousandths place. But I want to make sure I'm representing 83, so I'm going to put an 8 in the hundredths place. Now I'm going to annex 1 0 to make sure that I'm holding the place of the tenths. So I would write this 152 and 83 thousandths as 152 decimal point 083. Now you can read and write and recognize decimal numbers to the thousandths place.